Arrow Season 4, Episode 19, Canary Cry. Now, coming off of the 2-week break, 3 weeks for me, because I've been super behind on reviews, I think this is a really good episode. We left off on a very serious note where we lost Laurel / the Black Canary, and then this episode comes in and we get to see the aftermath of all the characters. And they certainly did the greatest job with Captain Lance. I knew his stuff was going to be pretty good because I'm like, he's in a really weird state because he lost his daughters. He lost 2 daughters a total of 3 times, which is crazy. And I love the way they did it because I didn't even think of this, where he'd be trying to find a way like, oh, she'll come back to life and all this other stuff, because he's in that world now where it's like, you know, my daughter died, she came back to life, and this is Sarah. She died, came back, we thought she was dead, but she wasn't. And then she actually died, and then she came back to life from the Lazarus pit, which he brought up, and this is the first time they've actually mentioned, like, Nyssa destroying the Lazarus pit since she did it. So he's like, alright, I got the stuff, what else do we need for this Lazarus pit thing? It's like, oh, that's not an option, like, that's gone now. And so, that kind of messed him up, but he's like, you know what, it doesn't matter, I'll figure something out, because it's the world we live in. He's in a weird space because there's magic and supervillains and all this other crazy crap. And, the fact that his daughters have died and, come back on several occasions. And it was just an interesting way to do someone's denial. And it wasn't really just like, oh, I don't believe she's dead. It's more like, I don't believe it's permanent. And they kind of threw it in there as well, because we have this girl who was suspicious. They showed her early on in the episode. I knew something was going on because she walked between everybody. I'm like, who is that? Like, obviously something's happening with this character. So they had her show up, and she's, playing Black Canary. So it's like, it's got to be her. Something's happening. They do the vocal chorus thing where it's like it was meant only for her vocal chorus, for Laurel's. And it put him in another state of denial. It's like, then it's got to be her, and they check the body, and she's still there. And so he's going through all this different stuff, and I just love the way that they played it. And then her mother came in at the end. He, by this point, he's accepted everything that's happened because he realizes this isn't one of those moments. And then, they brought it in where she was in the same position he was through most of the episode, and he's like, it's not going to be that way this time. Like, I've already gone through all this crap. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So I love the way they did that with him. I thought it was very well done. Very sad, but very well done. The emotions were definitely running high in this episode all around, but his were without a doubt the best moments. Like, he just was going through some really crazy stuff, and I think the way that they portrayed it was very well done. So I enjoyed that. His interaction with Nyssa, like, he made her cry. Like, Oliver was messed up where it's like, I can't help him. He's in, like, so much denial that there's nothing I can do to help. So he was just in a very interesting position in this episode. So I really love what they did with Captain Lance. Super sad, of course, but very well done. I really enjoyed that. Pretty much everybody else, I think Thea was like the only person who was fairly neutral this episode. Everybody else was like either super depressed or blaming themselves, like they got Laurel killed, because Thea was the only person like kind of just dealing with it. She never blamed herself, but it's like Diggle had his brother. Oliver is Oliver. He always thinks it's his fault. And then we had Felicity, who felt that she should have been there as a part of the team, and she could have made some difference. And like, she even says, like, I know it might seem like hubris, but I've made at least some bit of a difference before, and maybe it could have happened this time. So I thought that was kind of cool that they gave her that specific bit of dialogue. Like, I know I just sit behind a computer screen, but there have been moments where I've saved lives, and maybe I could have done something this time as well. So I thought that was really cool. I like the way they played that. Diggle was probably my second favorite. He just had my second favorite moment when he went up to Rouve Dark, and he was just losing it. Like, he felt like he screwed up so bad. He felt like he screwed up worse than anyone else, because it really was, if he felt that he could believe Oliver more than his brother, then yeah, it wouldn't have happened. But like, there's so many things, like, he can't blame himself because of course it's his brother, and how could you not? So yeah, it was just really interesting. I like what they did with his character as well. The scene where he attacked her, I thought was pretty crazy. He just shoots the guards, and I think this is the first time they've actually shown that he uses like darts or whatever, because it looked like he shot him with like a neon green dart or something like that, and like instantly knocks people out. So now we know he uses darts, because I always assumed that I think it was when he first showed up, it was like, okay, it seems like he's not using just bullets. But every other time I kind of forget that. I'm like, he's just shooting people left and right. So they kind of show it in this episode. He's using like little tiny green darts. But he was about to kill Ruve Dart because, you shoot someone in the head with a dart. At least, I guess if you... as close as he was, at least, I mean, they went through the glass and hit the guys. It definitely would have killed her at point blank range. So him kind of losing it there, I thought was a great scene. Like he takes his helmet off, which may have been a bad decision in the moment. I doubt that'll come back later, where it's like, oh, there is a camera and it's John Dickel or anything. But he's freaking out. And he's talking with Oliver and stuff. And Ruve, like, she runs off to wherever, and it was just a really great moment. And Diggle actually cries and stuff. A lot of crying in this. Like, I think once again, I think maybe Oliver didn't cry and Thea didn't cry. Everyone else cried. Laurel's mom didn't cry at the end of the episode either, but it was like everybody was crying in this episode too. But it was just a really good one. I really enjoyed it. I think it actually had some fairly good action moments with the Black Canary and what they had to do with her. Like, there's little stuff, like very small action scenes, like this stuff with Diggle. Really, he just shot two guys and that was it. But it was a bit of action here and there, tiny moments. But definitely a character-driven episode, and everybody dealing with loss, and the flashbacks in this episode are actually pretty good too, and they show and I can't believe I never thought about this, but they never did show Tommy's funeral before. So when they did that, I was like, man, that's really interesting. I never even thought about the fact that they had that funeral for him and we never saw it. It just never even occurred to me. So that was actually very cool that they did that, because it was a point in time I never even realized we missed. And they jump all the way back to, I guess technically it was in between seasons 1 and 2, and that's why we never really got to see it. So I thought that was actually really cool, because it showed by the end of the flashbacks, because I was trying to figure, I was like, where is this happening? Because obviously certain things were happening and certain other things weren't happening. And then I realized, like, oh, him leaving, because the second season starts with him on the island, that's what happened. Like, he went and emotionally he felt he wasn't capable of sticking around as the Green Arrow or just as the Arrow for a little bit, or even the Vigilante. I guess that season 1 he was still just the Vigilante. But I like how they did that. It was in between the seasons, and they just had different stuff going on during that moment, and it's stuff we'd never seen before. So I really enjoyed that. I was like, that's actually very cool. It was just a little space in between the first 2 seasons. And it was nice. It was a pretty cool way to do that, and we got to see Tommy's funeral and how it affected both Oliver and Laurel, and them talking about the future and things like that. So I thought the flashbacks were really good, and just the way that kind of progressed through the story, I thought was really nice. And now we have some fairly broken down characters going into this next episode. I believe tonight. Yeah, coming on tonight for me at least. No idea when this will end up uploading, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited for this next episode. I think it seems like it's definitely going to be getting really, really dark. And obviously the whole thing is like, they have to go up against Hive and Damien Dark. And they hinted at some stuff with the guy, the girl, she could have been confused where, I can't remember the guy's name at all, but the guy Thea's dating. She mentions like, oh, you work with them. I'm wondering if she was right about that, because that doesn't really come up again, at all throughout the episode. And it could just be the fact that he's working with, Ruve Dark now. But I was wondering, I was like, is she right about that, or is she wrong about that? Just assuming because, she's with Damien Dark's wife. But I was like, it had me really curious. I'm like, I wonder if he really is, working with Hive or something like that, and if she was wrong. Because even when they talk about it, they don't bring it up at all. They're just like, oh, Hive, she's looking after Hive. And then it's like, well, we have to stop her. They don't even really talk about the fact that she attacked him. It's like, is she right or is she wrong about, going after that guy? So it just makes me curious. I don't know if that's really going to play a part, and it was just like, she was wrong and that's it. But they kind of brought it up, and then they, the characters didn't really discuss it later on or anything like that. So now that question's in my head, whether or not she was right or wrong about him. But this was definitely a good episode. Very emotionally well done, I would say. I definitely liked the flashbacks. I thought it was really well done. Of course, compared to the normal flashbacks we've been getting this season, obviously the story ties in very well. And it gives us something really interesting because it jumps back in time. but it's a weird sort of jump back in time because it jumps back in time, but not like years. Well, technically it's years, but it's in between, seasons 1 and 2 instead of being like way, way back when he was still on the island or first on the island. So I thought it was just really cool. I really enjoyed the way they did the flashbacks. The emotional scale of like all the characters was just up and down in this episode. Mostly down, like everyone's just sad and angry and blaming themselves and doing some pretty out there sort of things with with Diggle and fortunately Lance made it. I was honestly worried like I didn't know if he'd just have another heart attack and die or how they were going to play that, which would have been really, really sad if they did that and then he literally couldn't survive his daughter dying. But it was just really well done. It's really good. Definitely the best scene was when he accepted it and he kind of just broke down. That was definitely probably the best scene in the episode. Saddest scene. Once again, all his scenes were sad this episode. But it was just very well acted. So I really enjoyed it. Of course, though, I want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, with us having lost a character in the Black Canary, I do have to ask if you guys think she's going to come back. That was a big thing with this episode, of course, with Captain Lance and his denial. But even when she died, it was like, it's the Black Canary. And it's like, actually, the Black Canary. It's Laurel Lance who is meant to be the Black Canary. So there's still that huge question, like, is she going to come back to life at some point, or is she completely gone? Like, have we truly lost the Black Canary? I would love to know if you guys think she's really gone, or if she might actually come back to life at some point, or how that's going to play out. I wanted to mention this because I totally forgot to mention, but the girl that was acting like the Black Canary, she's an actress from Supernatural, which I thought was cool for anyone who watches Supernatural. She looks totally different because she had blonde hair like 90% of the episode, but that was definitely her, so that was cool. And if it wasn't her, she looks exactly like the actress from Supernatural, but I'm pretty sure it's the same girl. But I thought that was pretty cool. They've done that several times actually, where characters, because I think they had a character, they had young Barry on Supernatural as well, which I thought was pretty interesting. That was a while back. But they've done that before, so I thought that was cool. It was like, oh, that's the girl from Supernatural. She was like in this most recent season too, so I thought that was actually kind of funny. But really enjoyed this one. That, like I said though, I definitely want to know if you guys think Laurel will actually stay dead or if she'll come back at some point. For me personally, I mean, obviously they did the Lazarus Pit thing, but we still have the whole Legends of Tomorrow stuff, and it's like somehow Vandal Savage came back, and we still don't know the answer from that. At least I don't believe we do. I'm like 2 weeks behind on that as well, so they may have done that by now. But as far as I know, we still don't have that answer. So there's some weird stuff going on, but I don't know. It's hard for me to say that I think she's truly dead. And if she is, then I think they might do some like Earth 2 type stuff, where she might come back from Earth 2, and then she'll live on Earth 1 forever. Because they did that in the comics as well. And I never knew that. I didn't know that until fairly recently. So they might do that, even though they haven't really done a lot of, or really any Earth 2 stuff in Arrow itself, and that's all kind of Flash's thing. But, I mean, obviously they're the same universe, so if they wanted to, they could definitely pull that off, and it would totally make sense to me. But, I don't know, it's really hard to say, because it's an important character. I think she'll be dead for the rest of the season, at least, and maybe half of the next season, if they decide to bring her back. They'll probably do like a season's worth, like maybe a good 20 episodes or something, where she's officially gone. And then it's like, here's the answer, and then she's back maybe at the end of the next season or something like that. But it's based on comic books. It's so hard for me to think anyone's actually dead. I feel like only villains truly die. And even then, the Vandal Savage thing, they've kind of gone against that. So it's really hard to tell. But I definitely want to know what you guys think. Whether or not she's gonna come back later or if she's gone forever. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.